Let's go, bro.
3 shots, 4 par, I just do 2. 1 putt, par 4, birdie, woo-hoo. New driver, info, replace, M2, par 5, fairway, what you fin do? Think I'll try to get on into, start right, good line, good view, it drew.
It's like 1:30 in the morning, and we're headed 550 miles, approximately, to the Pine Barrens.
Shooter McGavin, 2 thumbs that's up high and 2 fingers pointed at you, pew pew. Fairway to green, conk off that I'm playing. Sometimes these par 3 green look like an island, I'm playing.
Okay. Cheers, buddy.
Cheers. Thanks for having me.
You got a bud? Like it? Yeah. Greg, I'm happy we can do this, man.
Yeah, it's been, over a year or two maybe since I was last on?
Yeah. Things have changed. Sorry, I didn't. Is your cord okay? Because I did not
I think
hook that up. You can always just, see that little nipple up there? You can fire it back there if you need to.
Right, yeah.
The cord's annoying.
I think it's good for now.
Okay, cool.
Change it if we need to.
Yeah, it's been a couple years at least. And we haven't done a live one, which is cool. I always we chat all the time, but it's nice to kind of come in and see people in real life and connect and do these things. It's kind of been a venture of Bryce and I, and it's difficult though with Bryce being where he is. But we're gonna start this one off. We're at Gamer Golf in
Toronto, Ontario. Yeah,
Toronto, Ontario.
I think it's 1400 O'Connor.
Yep.
So shout out to Andrew at Gamer Golf. Thanks for having us. We appreciate giving us the time and space.
Yeah, it's great. They got 9 or 10 bays here, and it was just nice. We've done it at Uptown in Oshawa. It's kind of nice sitting in a simulator. It gives you that feel. So, although it's nice out where it is now. So, late in October as we are. So we're probably going to drop this one probably around Halloween-ish. So hopefully it's still nice and we're still golfing. We started around the same time. You were episode number 2 or 3 or something, right?
Yeah,
so
it was like the start of the pandemic, and everybody was kind of getting more into golf. I was getting more into golf, and I just I'd noticed there was a number of things that I wanted as a left-handed golfer that I was never able to get easily. It actually started with a red glove, so you can see that we now have the red Foreman glove. That's on the website. And the interesting story behind that one is that's kind of the reason I started the whole company was I wanted a red glove. Couldn't find any decent options in Canada, and had always wanted a sports based business, and so looked into kind of what was available for lefties, noticed that there was a gap that was there, and I thought it was something interesting I could do that I could have some individual insight on, and so in 2021 we started selling. We started in 2020, but April 21 was our first official golf season.
So when you got going, it's something we have discussed, but I'm not going to ask everybody to go kind of fire through. This is going to be episode 212 or 13, 14, something like that. So I'd be asking a lot of you to go back and search through those ones. Plus, we probably both sound a lot different then, especially me. I'm quite a bit less polished as I am. It's tough, man, to go back and listen to some of those. So I won't ask any of you to do that either. But what was the start like for you? So getting it started up, realizing that, we're up here, we got the Mike Weir effect. We got ties to Bubba at Bushwood in this area. There's lots of lefty golfers here. We've talked about the research that you put in. Can you kind of give us an idea how that started, how you kind of got those things going for Left Behind Golf?
Yeah, a lot of it was actually just kind of organic and kind of anecdotal, the stories that I kind of got from different people. I mean, there was never, you can go on Google or ChatGPT or whatever you want, but they don't know much about kind of lefty golf and the problems that it presents. But after speaking with different lefties and being a lefty myself, and again, just kind of anecdotally getting stories from people about their upbringing in golf, and lots of guys that were actually golfing right-handed because they've been forced to go that way.
Yeah.
Through either the availability of equipment, or they were just using their dad's or their older brother's clubs or something like that. So yeah, I mean, just a lot of talking with people and being in the room with different golfers. There was never really an official place you could go to research this kind of stuff, but there are a couple different articles and a couple different theories around Canada, the ties to hockey and being the home of left-handed golf and all of those things. So there's theories and reasons why there's a higher propensity or higher instance of left-handed golfing in Canada. But it was really just a series of starts and stops and failing forward. There was never really an easy path. Just something that I was passionate about, and so it's kind of carried me through.
Do you find there's things that impact, obviously, it's a brand, so again, every episode, go down below, Left Behind, leftbehindgolf.com.
Yep. Yep.
It's down below in the show notes. You can go check out any of the collections. As we're releasing this, you're going through the new mascot, which we're going to talk about a little bit, like your new, like, kind of like your new vision, your new guy. So, is there anything that you notice, like, if Akshay wins on tour, or Bubba, or Mike Weir has something coming up, like President's Cup? Do you notice anything, like an influx in like visits to your page, like more traction, whatever that might look like for you?
Yeah, I don't know if there's like a huge influx of traffic or anything in and of itself. It certainly gives us the ability to kind of play off some of that stuff that's going on, right? So
Yeah.
if Bob McIntyre wins, there's something we can attach to some messaging and kind of, be really happy about and promote that. But I think, like I said to you earlier, a lot of our efforts are kind of focused more around a lot of grassroots stuff. So we're not necessarily always thinking too much about the pro game. A lot of the left-handed golf that you'll experience probably doesn't go on at the pro level. There's only a handful of them. But it certainly helps for us as, the rising tide lifts all boats. So if a lefty wins, there's certainly something for us to celebrate.
Buddy, I was right there talking with Bobby Mack for a few minutes after he won. I wish I would have slid one in his back pocket or something like that.
That could have helped.
I think by the time he got up to the media center, he was 2 or 3 deep too. So he was like, having a good time, feeling good. Like what an absolute, like, just an inspirational
that
win.
Especially with it being the Canadian Open, right?
Yeah, Canadian Open, dad on the bag, just like
the whole thing was excellent. So there's the ability for us to again kind of use those things and align ourselves with them is probably a better way to say it. But I don't think it necessarily just happens because of those things happening. Like I don't think there's an influx just because Akshay wins, but us being able to celebrate those things in unison with them happening certainly brings the community together a little bit.
So one of my favorite things that I wanted to talk about is and when I talked to like my friends about it, when I was kind of talking to like, people in like our pod world about this one coming up, I was kind of saying like, I've known Greg now for 5 years. Like this is like, I'm like so proud of the guy. He's doing it. Like this is his thing now. Like you've moved full time. So like, what's that jump in like for you? Like how, maybe more importantly, as like an entrepreneur, I know like we have like good friend of both of ours, Mark, we were just talking with him, an entrepreneur as well at heart. Like how do you define success? Like what does that look like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting actually that you mentioned Mark, because entrepreneurship goes so up and down. And when I actually first met Mark in person this summer, it was one of those down weeks where I was kind of like, what am I doing? Is this working? Should I continue doing this? And he was there to kind of talk me off the edge a little bit.
Mark's a sweetheart.
Yeah,
thanks,
Mark.
Mark.
And absolutely, and that's why I think it's often the people I meet and the places I go that end up defining the greatest successes I've had on this golf journey, right?
Yeah, because we were kind of talking about that before we got things rolling here about, different things and like different brands and like what speaks to different companies. And like we were talking about our Golf Dad channel with Greg, who's a fellow lefty. And, we get, we just have like so many friends that we've created. Like over the years, we've done 210 plus episodes. And like I talk to everybody at some point and like stay in contact with them. And it's just one of those things that although it's like a business, that's like what defines success. And like things like this where you and I can like have a conversation is like, if hopefully people find Left Behind Golf because we've had a podcast or because they're checking out our page or whatever it is and vice versa.
Yep.
Like this is what will make people want to buy, and support like people in Toronto doing it, in our area doing it, or in Canada, whatever it is, where we have 30% of left-handed golfers versus 10% or less in the rest of North America, and then probably even less worldwide, right? So
when you're talking about entrepreneurship too, like the idea of having to keep showing back up when things do get tough, outside of the actual success of the business from a financial perspective, it's like that can come and go so easily that's not really what drives you at the end of the day. In a lot of instances, it is the people that you surround yourself with, some of the things you get to do and places you get to go that really give you that stickiness to get through those dark spots.
When we were kind of mentioning, like we were chatting a little bit about Andrew at Full Wedge, who was episode 200 with us, and he's a partner on the pod, and it's amazing to see somebody like that. Like back in 2019, he kind of got into the golf space and was a golfer, but was an entrepreneur and found a market that wasn't there, like you're doing now. Fast forward 5-6 years later, they've just celebrated 5 years, so congrats to Full Wedge. But he's got probably 10 staff, maybe a couple more, a warehouse. It's like he's found his niche, and he's like such a creative dude and like a great person. When you meet him, it's just like you just end up just liking the guy, and you just want to be like, okay, like this is somebody we want to support. This is somebody who, like, when I'm going to, I gotta buy something new for golf, whatever it is, a hat, we've got some here, and you can find them in the show notes below as well, of course. But you know, it's just something where it's easy too, right? So, and with us, like, this podcast has never been, we measure success on like how many people we connect with, really, and how people feel about how their listening experience or watching experience. And like, I'm trying to develop different things, which hopefully you're seeing in this podcast and enjoying, but it's like, this isn't my job. It's like, maybe one day it'll be my job. I have no idea, but like, that's not success to me. It's like all like the friendships, and like, it sounds like a cliche, but it's like really just about connecting and meeting other golfers and like trying to find a space that we can all, you know, fit in whatever that might look like. And I'm a lefty as well, so it's a little bit harder for me on this side of the tee box. So that's why I'm here with Greg. But, moving back into the, I wanted to talk to you about like the Colorado Classic. So that was like a lefty classic. Can you kind of like, tell us how that experience was for you guys?
Yeah, so it was really fun. I was contacted by Joe Buchholz, who's our Buckles. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. Sorry if I'm butchering it, Joe. But I was contacted by him about the Colorado Lefty Classic. It was going to be the inaugural tournament. And I've actually got a few guys that are on our ambassador team that are located in Colorado. So immediately I thought it would be a really great opportunity for us to be, you know, the fact that we had a couple guys out there. Right. And then we could get involved from a grassroots level, you know, right from the ground floor level, rather, to get involved with this lefty tournament. And Joe was really excited to hear that, you know, not only do they want to sponsor and bring some, you know, stuff for the tee gift and things like that, they're actually going to bring a team down here. These guys are going to participate in the tournament. It was awesome. I got to meet Ron Reed, who was the starter for the U.S. Open, also a lefty golfer. He was the starter for the U.S. Open for like over 25, 30 years. Wow. It just released his new book and everything, so it was
why
fun
Colorado?
To play with him.
Like, what is it like?
I think Joe's just from Colorado.
Is it kind of like a, like, obviously there's lots of hockey, like as you go north, like Minnesota, things like that. Like, is it just something that they see like a bit more, like, to actually create a lefty classic, or is it just
there might be something to the idea that in states where there's, you know, more hockey or something like that. But yeah, I'm not sure what the tie to Colorado necessarily would have been. I know that he did get in contact with the National Association of Left-Handed Golfers and Sid Miner, who runs the show over there. And I'm a member of that. We're a partner with the NALG, and this tournament is actually officially going to be in the National Association of Left-Handed Golfers circuit next year. So to come out to this event, you'll have to be a member of the National Association of Left-Handed Golfers, and it's going to be their kind of official stop within Colorado. So they do a lot of state tournaments as it stands. Okay. You know, all across the U.S. I think they did the national tournament in South Carolina this year, if I'm not mistaken, in Myrtle Beach. But yeah, Colorado was not a stop on their circuit, but now this upcoming year, it's going to be an official tournament for the NALG. So I'm not really sure what the tie between Colorado and lefties are. But that's like, again, they've got some great hockey there, and they do have a number of lefties too. So there might be something there.
I don't know. Aren't they like 0-4 as we're listening to this pod right now? It's been a tough start for the Avalanche.
Yeah, and I might have started, Anaheim's goalie against them tonight.
I got a
Doe style, so I'm hoping that Colorado
as this
comes again.
As this comes out, like I'd put down a few bucks that they will not be 0 and something by the time this pod gets released. Yeah. So, good of a team.
They're not the team. They're a great team, but I don't know if
they got a few guys out.
Pieces,
they got like Niche out right now. Yeah. They got like a few others out still. So like they'll be fine.
Max a monster, so they're gonna be all right.
Yeah, and like they just need some goaltending, and then they're gonna win a cup. So, and like Nathan McKinnon and stuff. They're just such a good team. Cal McCarr, debatably, like, well, he's the best defenseman in hockey right now. So
he's a unit.
It's easy for us to just like slide over to hockey, and we're all just like we're either like Leaf fans or we're jaded Leaf fans, or degenerate Leaf fans, or whatever it may look like for all of us.
Twirl gang, twirl gang, twirl gang, twirl gang. Give me that driver, I let it bang. Twirl gang, give me that wedge, I'm taking that aim. Twirl gang, twirl gang. If you ain't twirling hitter, you lame. You sick of the twirling hitter, you gang.
As I've gotten into so much of this stuff, like, are you designing your items, like your new pieces? Like, are you having a hand in that, or you?
Yeah, well, I
somebody,
have a
like,
hand more from like executive production kind of
Okay.
angle now. A lot of our older stuff I actually did design myself, and you'll probably see that our stuff has slowly gotten better designed. And that's because you start the business, you do as much as you can, you try to keep your costs low, but eventually you got to get out of your own way.
Yeah.
You're not the best at all of these little things, and you have to focus on what you are the best at. So this new series of hats, actually, a quick plug for my buddy over at Morg's Golf. He's actually working with Bogey Bros Golf now too as well, taking over their social media, so he's doing really well. I had met him at the Toronto Golf and Travel Show last year, and amongst being a really good content creator and a number of other things, he's also a designer.
Okay.
So I'd worked with him to design these new hats that we've got, the new authentic golf hats that we've just dropped. So that's exciting. And some of the other things that you see, like I do design a little bit. I try to keep it pretty simple. You might
This
have
guy?
seen, yeah, Morgan Penwell. You might have seen like some of the new Toronto Maple Lefty stuff, which was more just kind of like a, it's not an expected popular thing. I just
Right.
kind of, sometimes you have the business and you do cool little fun stuff like that. So I designed that, but it's just a regular maple leaf with some text, right? Like, I'm not a designer. But I do like to ideate on what the products are at a high level.
Yeah.
Right. And start to think about, and I'm doing a lot of that this off season, and I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that, about some of the new stuff that'll be coming down the pipeline. People are always asking what the new products will be, what new stuff will look like. So conceptually, I'm working on a lot of that stuff. But from a design perspective, maybe getting out of my own way a little bit and working with people who have some higher technical expertise in those different areas, whether it's design or, actual products designing, like different aspects of a hat versus what's just the logo.
Anything come across? I asked Andrew the same question. So I just gave Morgan a real life follow. He's 6'7" too. That's pretty.
Lanky gang.
That's a big guy. That's a big guy, man. We got to get a match with him and Bryce because they'll be on the same level on the camera.
Nice.
But is there anything that, like, when you're receiving something, are you always pretty open to other people's ideas, even, or does it have to kind of run by Greg's eye to be able to, like, come into the Left Behind Golf world?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm a very open-minded person in general.
You are, man.
and
You
I-
definitely are. I like that about you, where it's like, we talked about gatekeeping and stuff like that before the cameras were on, and it's just kind of like, I could see, like, if Morgan brought you something or somebody else brought you something that you were like, maybe it's not my thing, but it seems like other people really enjoy it. That's
when
kind of like,
when I work with people like that, especially when you're really talented, right? Like, it's like, I'm not going to ask you for a discount. I'm not going to nickel and dime anything. I'll charge me what you're worth and just be worth it, right? And those are the kinds of people that I like to work with, and I like to give them as much artistic freedom and room to kind of work with their stuff. Obviously, like, the final decision is going to be mine. Like, if I really didn't like something, but I'd have to really, really not like something, or maybe really be uncomfortable with it. I haven't encountered that, but I can envision, I can be stubborn sometimes, but it would have to be something pretty particular. But yeah, no, otherwise, I mean, I'm like, I left with the hats. I had some specific minor ideas, and I just said around those kinds of things, just let your creativity fly, and I think that's the best way to do it.
well, I've always wondered that because Bryce and I are polar opposites. So excuse Bryce, he can't be here. We're in Toronto, so he's a few hours away. But Bryce and I are polar opposites. So, like, I ordered a putter from Tyler Lowy. I've talked about this on the pod before, and, like, I didn't know what it would look like at all.
Right.
He's like, Macker, what do you want to put on this? And I was just like, I don't know, man. Like, you're like the guy is literally like the Van Gogh of putter creations. He's like,
you're not going to tell Van Gogh what to paint for you.
exactly. Like, he's making the things by hand. So he was like, what colors do you like? And I was like, oh, like, it'd be cool to do like a all black putter or something like that. And he was like, okay, thank you for finally saying something. And then, like,
because they don't want complete artistic freedom. Sometimes
Yeah.
it's like you don't want to let somebody down or disappoint them, and you want a little bit of direction, but you don't want to limit somebody.
I'm getting in my car at 1 a.m. to drive to New Jersey, and I'm just like, all right, like, I'm going to, like, pick this thing up, and I'm sure he's just like hoping it, because I didn't want to see any photos of it or whatever. And, like, I love doing that. I love giving, like, real creators, like, the absolute freedom
Yeah, me too.
to create as much as they can, like, take it as far as they're comfortable taking it. And so I'm always kind of curious, as, like, an actual business owner yourself. I was talking to Andrew, like, we have a lot of brands on the pod. That's a question that I like to kind of just get a sense of, like, your personality and how that makes you feel.
Yeah.
Because there's got to be a lot of things that kind of come across where maybe you don't love it, or maybe you're like, but I'm sure it sells well, or it hits well, or whatever it may
it's
be,
not so
right?
much. Yeah, there's not a ton of it, but I think, like, it's exactly that. I give as much artistic freedom as I can, and obviously I'm going to try to give as much input as I can to make them comfortable.
Yeah.
Like some people want total artistic freedom, and some people want it within the confines of a little direction. And so I'm good with either one of those things. But ultimately, yeah, I'm pretty open-minded, and like I said, getting out of my own way and letting other people with a lot of talent and a lot of creativity just do their thing.
All right, I'm gonna grab one from Golf with Greg, our buddy Greg. Thank you, Greg, for the question.
GWG.
What's next for Left Behind Golf? Big 2025 ahead.
Yeah, I think it is a big year coming up. So I mean, we've got a number of things we could be doing from a product perspective, a number of things we could be doing from like an event perspective. So I'm thinking a lot about those main two things. We've got, obviously, our inroads were made in the gloves. We've introduced hats and some different apparel and things like that. I think now the opportunity for us to get into, some more of the less lefty specific things.
Okay.
So whether I start just introducing like just anything you could get for golf. I think when I first started, I wanted to address specific problems, right? Like it was hard to get the lefty gloves. It was hard to get the different colors and the variety and those things. So that's kind of where I started it. But now that we've kind of got some credibility and built a bit of a brand around it, I think it's an opportunity for us to now just, brand different golf items, whether that's ball markers and tees and, get back into polos and Q-zips. I'll tease it a little bit. I've had some interesting ideas for what the idea of left-handed golf clothing could be.
Okay.
Simply based on the idea that most of the time you've got a glove on your right hand, and I find myself operating on my left side quite a bit when I'm wearing golf clothing, and this is totally prototype type stuff, but I might be looking into developing some, whether it's hoodies or joggers of some sort, pants of some sort, that have extra utility for left-handed golfers.
I like that.
Based on the fact that, again, I find I've always got the glove on my right hand. I fiddle in my pockets a lot less on the right side. I don't know if there's anything to this, but again, prototypical, kind of teaser discussion. So there might be a little bit of that, and then
Left-only pockets.
Yeah, like just extra stuff.
Just
I always have extra crap on the left side, just from the nature of and I know it's a bit absurd. What the hell is left-handed golf clothing? But there are some thoughts around that, and then I think events will be another big thing for us. Whether it's a Toronto Lefty Classic that we'll be setting up, or maybe it's like weekly events over the winter here at a place like Gamer Golf. I definitely think the community aspect of it could be building. So the ability for us to obviously introduce some new products and try to make them lefty-centric when possible, but also introducing some further community aspects and the opportunity for people to get involved and connect with other lefty golfers and just golfers in general, right? I don't think it has to be just lefties. That's
kind of been one of the things that I've always liked a lot about Left Behind Golf is like you've built like a really strong community. Like that's if you're going to answer like what is success or whatever, like
right.
You found like an incredible niche that you can create a community where like we all have an interest because we all are on this side of the tee box. We've all felt the pinch of like trying to find gloves or, things that kind of will allow us to feel like, a little bit more welcome or not welcome, but like a little bit more like
we belong.
Belong as a lefty or whatever it may be. And I think that like right from the hop, you've like searched and built a community that is just, it's second to none out there. Like I don't think anybody else is doing it, and if they're not doing it as well as Greg is right now. So
yeah, I try to focus a lot on that, and it is all about the people. Like I think speaking of the question around success and things like that, like I remember being at the Toronto Golf and Travel Show, and I keep mentioning that at different points, but getting to meet people live and having folks that would step up and actually just say like thank you, just genuinely look you in the eyes and say thank you, like somebody had to do something. It's a slow ride sometimes. It's not like we're going to change everything overnight, but it makes the world a difference when things aren't going the way you think they would, to remember that there's people out there in multiple different countries that have just thanked me for my efforts, and I think that's a really big deal.
Well, we were at the Toronto Golf and Travel Show, Bryce was there for the Saturday, but we were doing social media like for the show, connecting with like vendors. And man, I remember we like turned on that light and it was just like mosquitoes, man. Yeah. It was absolutely wild. And like, I have no idea, but like you must have sold easily hundreds of gloves. Like it was just like,
we did really well that weekend.
Flying. So like, is that the type of connection that you like to have? Do you like that in-person stuff? Like obviously you're an e-commerce base, but like
I'm an e-commerce base, but my career history is in sales, B2B software sales primarily, but that was not my first time on a conference floor.
Right.
That's for sure. So especially in a place like that where it's all about how you can hook and compel people to spend a little bit of their time. There's lots of things to see, lots of things to do. And essentially just asking folks, hey, you a lefty? You know, if you're coming out as a new polo company,
Yeah.
we talked about this, like how difficult it would be to say, hey, you know, hey, do you like polos? Hey, do you like shirts? Like,
Yeah.
well, yeah, of course, right?
I feel like Justin could probably get people there though.
You could sell, you know, ice to a penguin kind of
Yeah,
thing. So that's awesome. And but
it
yeah,
was
just the
pretty like it was
opportunity for
pretty
us.
electric, man. Having like just walking by and like hearing Justin, like I'd be in the next aisle over, and he's just like, you know, he's just like he's got a pretty infectious personality, so it's easy to just like be drawn to that, and like just the passion that obviously you guys have for like this community, like really showed with kind of how he was. But it was every time I walked by, man, there was just like 2-3 people deep at a booth to just like
We had a good setup
check
going
out,
there.
you know, check out a left, like just the leftorium of like golf accessories essentially,
Yeah.
right?
The funniest thing was too is it wasn't always necessarily a lefty that we talked to. It's like, are you a lefty? The guy would say no, but Jim is.
Yeah.
And there was always like, it was so consistent with how someone would say no, but and there was always the one, at least, but in every foursome, like there'd be a bunch of groups of guys that are their golf buddies they go with. So there's tons of like groups of 4 guys, and there was always like a Jim or a Joe, the lefty. You know what I mean? He was always coming up the back, walking slower. He was just different than them.
Recently working with golfers, like pros, to bring like education to your website and stuff, like to your social media page. So again, the social media page, the website, everything's like in the show notes below. You can go grab it. But are you guys working on still developing that? That's part of like building your community?
Yeah, and I think it's, you know, there's so many different pieces to what kind of content that I'm trying to get better at making myself and trying to get better at getting the company to be involved with. And as I mentioned before, I've always had a very problem-based approach to what we're focused on. And I've identified early on that representation was one problem. You know, there's not enough gloves, there's not enough equipment, there's not enough different things that there aren't enough of. But one of the things that is included in that is the ability for left-handed golfers to easily learn instruction. And I still struggle to this day. Like, I was watching a Jake Hutt video the other day, and you know how Jake Hutt lets to get down with his, you know, with the flows, and he's like, you got the left side doing this and the right side, and I'm just like, and it was obviously completely opposite, and I'm sitting there trying to translate it. So it's what I call like mental gymnastics that you have to do as a left-handed golfer sometimes, trying to learn different things, trying to work on different things. So we started this series that I've always been thinking about, where it's by lefties for lefties, as our you know, our kind of slogan is, but it's left-handed golf instructors that are teaching like they're teaching to lefties. So when they're talking about the trail side, they're talking about the left side. When they're talking about the lead side, they're talking about the right side. They're using those words specifically. So I do have that as one of the pillars that we're going to be focused on, and going to continue to grow that and get more coaches involved. It's tricky with Instagram because I find lately it's really downgrading any educational stuff in the algorithms. Like, everything's just very much about quick jokes and quick hits, and people aren't spending quite as much time on Instagram, like slowing down to learn things. And maybe that's an opportunity for me to look at what platforms we're on. Maybe that's something that's better suited for YouTube. All different things I'll be looking into, but regardless of that, it's going to be something that we're focused on. It's a problem for lefties that are trying to learn golf, that are trying to get golf instruction to make sense, especially from an online perspective. So hopefully we can build that library out.
From the professional or like the instructor standpoint, is that something that they felt was missing as well?
I think they felt that there was an opportunity there. I think it's different when you're just dealing with students in person. Like, I think you end up making those translations and helping them with that. But I think when we're talking about like online instruction and people are just watching videos where they're not necessarily working with these pros, but they're just watching their content. So I think it's an opportunity when you're just watching content for instructors that are left-handed that want to niche in and kind of have a specific value for an audience. There's an opportunity. So like Macaulay Renfro, who's the fellow that I've done a few of the first videos with, shout out Macaulay, an opportunity for him to differentiate himself in a very competitive market as well, right? Like, these online coaches have a lot to do to try to stand out.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. Like, as you are appealing to mainly left-handed golfers, or people who might have a left-handed golfer in their life,
right?
Might be a husband, a wife, or whatever it may be, or a friend that they want to like pick up something for. I think that there is like an avenue where, because a lot of my development, like when I was golfing when I was younger, or I watched like a lot of Chris Ryan videos, like great instructor. But yeah, would speak to the majority of golfers in the world, which is 90% or whatever. Maybe like he's from the UK, so it might be even more than that there. I don't know. Right. So the thing is like trying to like almost flip that mirror to that and make it make sense. But I do feel like that's why we see a lot of creativity with like guys like Mac and, you know, just lefties in general. Like I know myself, like I'm a lot more creative on the golf course than, you know, the other 2 or 3 guys in my group that I'm typically playing with, right? So I find that that's probably why, because I'm like, shit, I don't know, man. Like the guy said what? Like I can't remember.
Yeah, I don't remember.
And
I'm just
like,
gonna kind of wing this.
So there's a hole in the tree there. I'm gonna just hit the ball through there. And
it's
we
the
all
whole
have
brain
like,
thing too, right?
Yeah.
Like left brain, right brain. They, you know, that's pretty commonly said that left-handed golfers are always more creative. You're using the creative part of your brain or whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, I think there's an opportunity for coaches in a very crowded and competitive market to again, like a lot of brands are doing, niche down. Maybe you don't want to cut yourself short. You don't want to say I'm just for lefties, but if you're a left-handed golfer and you can instruct specifically with advantage to left-handed golfers, then you know, why wouldn't a left-handed golfer want to look at you versus the next guy?
Well, we've had instructors on, we've had like even like databases and stuff where people can go on to like Estruzi was one of them, and people can go on like find a coach, and like that can be something specific, right? And it's a niche where a coach could say like,
yeah, it's something you could talk about.
Yeah, like I will always speak to you as like a lefty, and like that's how we will, you know, we'll be able to have that like clear communication.
Like if I'm a left-handed golfer and I'm vetting coaches, I mean that's not going to be the be-all end-all for me, but that's going to be a +1 in your favor if you can you recognize immediately that that's a challenge. And again, it's different, I think, from an individual coaching perspective versus this online thing. I think like a lot of times when you're viewing content, it's just very difficult to make the translation yourself, and it's a lead magnet, right? So you can have that as a way to say, yes, I'm going to focus on specifically left-handed golfers, and I have the ability to do that better than some other golfers that aren't left-handed. But it doesn't necessarily preclude you from working with anybody.
Yeah, I kind of think like goalie coaches and stuff too. Like back in the day, like I was a goalie, and like, you know, a couple times like, you know, my partner might be like a southpaw or something like that, and like it's always like a little bit different. They always like move a little bit different too, having the catcher's mitt on the right hand or like having the, you know, blocker on the left hand side. So it's like there is like a different movement. Like we have, no matter what, we're gonna have a bit of a different movement.
It is just different, right? It's
the
other
you like
side.
You can mirror it, but always like be a bit different, feel a little bit different. So it's like nice to have that ability, right? But speaking of Southie, we kind of landed on your new guy, like you're the new face of Left Behind Golf.
Yeah,
like
the new mascot.
The new mascot. So can we talk to that a little bit? Like that was another thing that I like about like how you build out your connection with the community. Like you got people to get in there, submit like ideas, names, things like that. I threw Flanders in there, I think, like that for Ned Flanders. Like I'm so stuck on
Flanders. Yeah, definitely. Like it's I thought it was a cool opportunity. Like I pride myself on being able to name things. Like you can see all the names of the different gloves and stuff. It's something I enjoy doing. But I thought it'd be a really good opportunity to get people involved in the naming of the new mascot, which Morgan had designed as part of the hat project that I had just completed. So we landed on Southie, which I thought was a super cool name.
Perfect.
I let all the votes, or sorry, all these submissions come in. I selected my top 5. So this comes down to like, I like artistic freedom, but within confines of what I want. So I took my top 5 names that I liked, and then I threw it to popular vote. So Southie won. I think the second name I also liked, the second place name, which was Charlie, which was an ode to Bob Charles.
Yeah.
So that was cool. But Southie, I thought was just perfect. I thought it was great. I thought the right name won, which was awesome as well. It just had that, you know, I wanted one name. I wanted it to be punchy, and I wanted it to kind of just be like very casual. I didn't want it to be kind of gimmicky. Right?
Southie's like a little bit more gripping than Flanders, but I just had this like view of like we're, you know, creating like golf gloves or like polos, and we just have like a big thick broomstick mustache or something like that.
Interesting you mentioned that, because I've always had this. One of the first things somebody called me when I first started setting the company up, which is like, "Oh, you're Flanders of the fairway," and so I kind of had this idea for a thing called Flanders of the fairway. And one of the folks that I've recently connected with, a fellow by the name of Charlie Draper, He has an account, a personal account, and also a Southpaw Golf Club, just to connect left-handed golfers just alike. And he actually got a tattoo done that he had posted on his page, and it was basically just a curmudgeon-looking Flanders with a golf club, the whole thing. Like, it was perfect. And I let him know about my idea, and I was like, well, I wanted to do this shirt or this whatever, Flanders of the fairway. And he's like, yeah, dude, here's the sketch. You know, take it. Let's make something of it. So we're going to have a collaborative item coming out fairly shortly that's going to be dedicated to Flanders and left-handed golf as well. So I'll tease that here, but you're not at a loss because Flanders didn't win. That's still coming.
That's so sweet too, because I always think of like the Leftorium, because I grew up in like the era of the Simpsons and stuff like that. And like our first ever pod that we did together, I like tagged it as we were at the Leftorium or whatever.
I often still tag posts that I make as happening at the Leftorium.
Like if you find that, it's probably all kind of built on that. But Greg, before we wrap things up, do you have any like collab ideas coming up? Obviously like a dream collaboration or something like that. That's like an easy question to ask you. That's like a very blanket question to ask you. But do you have any collabs or anything with other brands coming up, or kind of people, influencers in the golf space that you're trying to work with?
Yeah, I think we're trying to focus on a few of the other lefty accounts that are out here. Like I know there's a group of guys in Las Vegas that have just started producing some content, the Lefties golf crew. So I'm going to get them some stuff. They're going to be creating some content. Hopefully we can do some further collaborations. Like I said, Charlie with Southpaw Golf Club as well. Hopefully do some collaborations there. Some dream collaborations would be obviously if we could ever get Mike Weir on the horn. I mean, that's my number one collab of all time would be, to be able to do something with him. Obviously Mac Boucher would be a great opportunity. It's always somebody I wanted to connect with that we've never quite crossed paths. And on all those folks that are really dedicating part of what they're doing to the lefty plight and the lefty cause would be my first focus for the upcoming year.
I'm looking at this guy, first ball, man, hit fairway. That's wild. Can't do that. But
omen.
we got potentially some stuff coming up with Mac in the next little while. He's like the hottest thing in golf, though, man. Right now, he's playing,
that's ambitious. That's ambitious.
As we speak right now, he's playing on the Asian tour, about to be. So it's
in Thailand there, right?
Yeah, it's nice to see that success for
awesome,
Mac. He's kind of been like we've chatted since like we started the pod.
Well, I can remember he had like when we first started, we'd all connected, or you and I had connected, and I'd profiled him, I think, and he was at like 15K followers, I think, at the time, which is like, still higher than both of us. But obviously since then it's just skyrocketed.
Yeah.
Right? Sky's the limit for him. So it's awesome to see.
Yeah. Like he was still 3 digits when him and I got chatting. And then it's like, we were playing at like High Hope Farm one day or something like that.
High Hope.
Oh, buddy.
Shout out High Hope.
Man, I had an absolute wild round there. I had 2 near aces, like within a couple inches. Yeah. I was telling Mark about it a while ago because somebody shot like a 61 there that he was
with. You can go low at High Hope.
And I was like, on 18 birdies, I had 4 birdies, no bogeys, and it was just like, I can't remember exactly what it was, but great little par 3 track. If you learn how to win, go play High Hope. It's such a good spot, like up in like Uxbridge or something.
You'll
like
go
that.
Low and you'll have a good time.
Yeah, and like you can't go high. Like you can't really.
The hopes are the only things that go high there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're not gonna have a bad time, and if you do, just like pick up a dessert on the way out or something. It's a great spot. But speaking of great spots too, we're at Gamer Golf too. So thanks again to Gamer Golf.
Yeah,
this was a great.
Andrew, and thanks to.
Andrew and the team here for letting us kind of set up in the bay here. It's always kind of cool. I like these setups. Like I know we have to bring a lot of stuff. We, had an Instagram live. We'll probably drop in a little bit of B-roll here and there, but it's great. It's an opportunity. Like as we're sort of nearing this part of the season where we are playing golf right now, we're just wrapping up the season. Like Gamer Golf is the perfect spot to come. Like if you're in this area, I'm gonna link their whether it be their Instagram or their webpage or whatever it is, that'll be in the show notes below. Go book a few hours, go play some golf. It's always a great time.
Yeah, if you're in the East End of Toronto, it's definitely one of the nice places to come over, especially over the next few months when everything's going to get a little chillier.
It's easy too, and Greg's in the area too, so send him a message and say come by.
Yeah, and like I said, I might look at being able to set up maybe some lefty nights here. Obviously everybody would be welcome, but something sponsored by us where we can get not even just the lefty community, but the Toronto golf community together as well. There'll be some strong lefty representation for sure.
Love that, Greg. Until next time, buddy. I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, cheers, Mac, man. This was
great. It's always so much better to do the live ones, but really appreciate you making the time, pal.
Very chill. Yeah, cheers, buddy.
We have to do the handshake because Mark and I absolutely butchered it when we did, so it's always got to be a thing.
That worked out.
All right, man. Thank you.
Cheers.
Is out in my ball and of course so I tee up. I lose the ball and I re-up. I miss a fairway, I probably end up in the ocean or maybe the beach. And I'm on a par 5 and I'm finna go reach it. Second was blind, I ain't see it. Feel like it might be an albatross, worst case scenario.